start, and I'll tell you later what I'm going to do about that. Everybody ready? I'd like to call the Monday, April 3rd, 2017 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with the pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Here.
Mrs. Hilton?
Here.
And may I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Stevens and Councilmember Epley? Evidently, there's this unique concept in Oakwood called spring break. As a CPA, I have no idea what that means. But
right.
We so moved? All right.
Second.
Thank you. We will excuse them absent. Do I have a report on the minutes of our March 6 regular and work session and our March 20 special executive and work session? Mrs. Hilton.
Your Honor, I've reviewed the minutes from those meetings and I found them to be correct and complete, and therefore I move that they be adopted as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Under status reports, I have a proclamation recognizing April as 2017 World Autism Awareness Month. Whereas autism, the fastest growing developmental disability in the United States, affecting more than 3 million people, is an urgent public health crisis that requires a national response. And whereas in recognition of the growing needs of the worldwide autistic community and to raise awareness about autism spectrum disorders and the need to provide services to individuals and families who are affected, the United Nations sanctioned April 2 as World Autism Awareness Day. And whereas Autism Speaks, an organization dedicated to funding research on autism and advocating for the needs of individuals with autism and their families, promotes the awareness of autism worldwide. And whereas in light of the growing impact of autism spectrum disorders and the need for greater awareness, Autism Speaks held their Light It Up Blue campaign on World Autism Awareness Day, designed to increase awareness about autism by asking participating organizations to turn their lights blue. And whereas the City of Oakwood takes part in the annual observance of Autism Awareness Month and World Autism Awareness Day in the hope that it will lead to a better understanding of that disorder, now therefore under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, hereby proclaim April 2017 as Autism Awareness Month in the City of Oakwood to raise public awareness of autism and the many issues surrounding autism, as well as to increase knowledge of the programs that have been and are being developed to support individuals with autism and their families. Thank you. I have one other status report, and here we are. When we passed our budget for 2017 last December, we had budgeted a reduction in our income tax revenue of $550,000. That was because we anticipated the effects of House Bill 5 that was passed in 2014, and with an effective date of 2016, we would start seeing those reductions in revenue by that law that the state legislature passed in 14. We also know that we will have a reduction in receipts because the city of Dayton increased their income tax rate to 2.5 effective January 1 of 17, and the city of Centerville increased their income tax rate to 2.25%, also effective January of 17. And that's in addition to the city of Moraine, which is also now 2.5, and about 20 other cities that have raised their rates. Through the first 3 months of March of 2017, our actual tax receipts for income tax are $272,000 lower than what they were the same period last year. To put that in perspective, between 2008 and 2010, on an annualized basis, we had a reduction in income tax receipts of only $150,000. This is the worst quarter for income tax receipts since I've been on council, and very well may be the worst result in quarter in the history of the city of Oakwood. Most of our receipts come in the month of April. Normally by the end of April, we normally receive somewhere between 45 and 48% of the total income tax receipts for the year. So depending on what happens in the month of April, which I will be reporting next month, I think we will have that by May 1st. I'll give people an update to see whether this trend is continuing or not. But I'm a little worried that if we only budgeted a 550 reduction and we've already had 272 only through the first 3 months, it's something that the city is going to have to monitor very closely. In spite of that, we were budgeting an overall deficit for the year of just under $400,000, primarily because of the loss of the income tax receipts. And we do have reserves to cover that in 2017, but as I said in our State of the City, this is not a sustainable manner. Which then leads me to an update on the governor's budget up in Columbus. One of the provisions in his budget is they want to have centralized collection in Columbus of all the business city income tax return filings. This proposal has been uniformly opposed and denounced by all the cities and villages across the state of Ohio. It's another power grab by special interest to take revenue away from cities. They want to collect it on our behalf and charge us more than what we're currently paying to collect our own income taxes. Interestingly enough, the Ohio Society of CPAs are putting out their talking points to the CPA community, asking them to support centralized collection. And on their website, this is the first time I've ever seen this, the CPAs that are actually responding to the Ohio Society's call for supporting centralized collection are actually saying the Ohio Society doesn't know what they're talking about. I want to read a couple of them because I was impressed that these were actually written by CPAs. It is time that the Ohio Society of CPAs understand that centralized collection is not the answer. Stay out of municipal affairs. When the time comes for your streets to be cleared of snow, your garbage to be picked up, your house is on fire, and the community in which you live is strapped for cash, are you going to take care of these? Ohio Society of CPA Board, listen to your fellow CPA members who are involved in municipal activities, either as elected or appointed officials. You have not reached out to us. It is time to clear your head and pull it out of the sand. And another person wrote, if anyone thinks the Ohio Business Gateway is capable of handling this, think again. At some point down the road, perhaps, but not now. And then finally, the Ohio Department of Taxation is incapable of handling the net profits tax. They continue to be overly aggressive and many times incorrectly apply the tax laws of our great state in the name of raising as much revenue as possible. Does anyone really think businesses want to deal with such an overseer? So I thought that was pretty worthwhile reading. Our biggest concern about centralized collection is, and we have this as good experience, is in the lame duck session last year, all of the special interests that seem to live in Columbus all got together and put in all kinds of special provisions at the last moment. They then, cram it down the throats of the legislatures who have many good reasons to oppose centralized collection, but if it ends up being rolled up into a giant budget bill, which now is in the $70 billion range, I think, for the state for the 2-year period, they end up, they have a convenient excuse saying, well, I have to vote for the budget to keep the state of Ohio open. We are going to be meeting on, what day in May? On May 16th with our 35-member Budget Review Committee to talk about this issue. We have invited our State Representative Jim Butler and our State Senator Peggy Lehner to come to the group just to have a sort of a open hall discussion with our Budget Review Committee about this issue. Representative Butler has said that he plans to attend, assuming the legislature is not in session, and we're still waiting to hear from Senator Lehner whether she is available on that day. So that's pretty much my update on where we are budget-wise, at least for the first 3 months, and hopefully we'll have a better April. We have no visitors tonight, so I will go immediately to legislation. And we have an ordinance to proceed with the 2017 sidewalk repair project. Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you, Your Honor. This was introduced with the first reading at our March 6th council meeting by Mr. Stevens. And as you said, it's an ordinance to proceed with the repairing of sidewalks. And it's an annual ordinance. This is the second step of our 2017 sidewalk curb and driveway apron project. This year's program will cover the west side of Far Hills Avenue and all city streets west of Far Hills. And I move that council adopt it tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion for Mrs. Hilton? Hearing none, Lori, would you call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
And next, we have an ordinance to proceed with the 2018 street lighting program. Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, this is the second reading. I believe it was Mr. Stevens who introduced it at the March meeting. It's an annual ordinance, second step of our 2018 street lighting program, the ordinance that authorizes the city to proceed with the project. And I move that council adopt it tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
And then finally, we have an ordinance to levy special assessments for the 2018 street lighting program. Mrs. Hilton.
Now, this is the first reading, so we will not make a motion at this time, but this is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood by lighting the same with electricity. And it's the third and final step of our 2018 street lighting program. It allows for the cost of street lighting to be certified to the Montgomery County Auditor for assessment.
Thank you. So we will vote on that at our next regular meeting.
That's correct.
It is now time for our Public Works update, and City Manager Klops will give that to the citizens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few things to comment on tonight. I'll start with the Schroeder Road project. A couple weeks ago, we sent a detailed letter to over 600 Oakwood property owners, including the landlords and tenants for rental properties along the entire Schroeder corridor and going westward to Delane Avenue. So we captured that whole 400 block along the Schroeder corridor. And the letter provided an update on our project. The project, as you know, is planned for construction from May through October. We're going to have two open house events here in the council chamber for citizens interested in learning more about the project and getting more details of the construction. We announced those dates in that letter, but it's a public meeting open to anyone in the community or beyond, frankly. One of those events will be on April 20th, a Thursday, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon. And then the second one will be the following week on Tuesday, April 25th, in the evening from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And we'll have display boards in here, and we'll have several of our staff members present to speak one-on-one with citizens to explain the project. But it's a very important safety improvement, and as we've talked before, we're converting what is now, a two-lane in each direction roadway to a three-lane section, one northbound, southbound lane, and then protected left turn lanes at every cross-street intersection. And all the traffic engineering done on this shows that it will be a major improvement. It will reduce accidents on that corridor. It'll slow down traffic. It'll create a much safer roadway to cross, either for pedestrians or cyclists and that sort of thing. So great project coming up. In advance of that, we have one sanitary sewer repair to do, and it'll be between Corona and Hadley. A letter went out to a number of the residents around that 2 or 3 block area last week. That work is scheduled to start next week, assuming that the weather is decent, and will take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. So we have about a 225-foot long piece of old sanitary sewer pipe that's deteriorated and needs to be replaced. We're meeting with our contractor, Barrett Paving, next week, in fact next Tuesday on the 11th, to talk about pre-construction topics and the sequence of work, the establishment of a truck prohibited route during the construction period. The work zone, you passed legislation a couple months ago about that. We're going to reduce the speed limit on Schroyer from 35 to 25 during the construction period, just to create a safer environment. And the contractor will be required to have a message board on both ends of the project. So one somewhere near Carmel's restaurant on the north side, on the south side, around Dorothy Lane, probably just as you get past Speedway. And it'll be a large sign that will have a message that we haven't crafted yet, but it'll be we'll have the ability to change the message as needed, but it'll alert folks of the pending construction and other important messages, primarily geared to the people that commute through there on a regular basis. So, important project coming up and rather soon. A few other quick things. In our budget this year, we have $50,000 included for asphalt rejuvenation. That'll take place sometime in the summertime, and that's a roadway surface treatment that we put on recently repaved streets, and the folks that are impacted by that will get a little postcard notification a few weeks before that. The 2017 sidewalk curb and driveway apron program, notices went out last weekend, so all of the Oakwood property owners that have some sidewalk to repair have been informed of that, and they can choose to do the work themselves, hire a contractor of their own to do it, or do nothing, and then our city contractor will come by, probably starting sometime in late May, and they'll do the work, and then just bill the property owners for their respective parts. We have money in the budget this year to do some concrete street repair, and we'll focus primarily on Ridgeway Road, starting. If you think about Ridgeway, the entire section through Oakwood is concrete, and it's 30 to 40 years old, so there are a number of areas that need to be repaired. Most of the work will take place on the north end, starting at Harmon, going down the hill, and we'll also be replacing a number of the street light poles along Ridgeway, so we'll do a mailing to everyone on Ridgeway here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, advising them of the street light replacement work, pole replacement, and also the concrete work. So that'll be a nice improvement on that important corridor. We're offering leaf mulch again at the Public Works Center, and that, as we've typically done each year, is available during 5 Saturdays. It starts on Saturday, April 15th, and goes through Saturday, May 13th. So from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on those 5 Saturdays, Oakwood residents have 2 different options. One, they can literally just drive to the Public Works yard. The front gate will be open. They can go in there with a vehicle, a pickup truck, what have you, and just pick up mulch for free. They'll have to load it themselves and all that. Or if folks come with a small pickup truck, we have a front-end loader that can help load. We don't allow commercial vehicles. Or citizens can have the city deliver mulch, and that's $90 for 3 cubic yards or $130 for 6 cubic yards. So they should call the Public Works Department 298-0777 to place an order, and then we'll deliver it right to their driveways. And this is basically the leaves from last fall that have been ground up and processed into a nice usable leaf mulch. The 2017 Vectran project is scheduled for the summertime when school's out of session, and that's because it's going to take place this year along Wiltshire and Telford, and then between Schaefer and Far Hills it'll go further north up to 4. So it's in the Smith School vicinity, and it'll be similar to what we've experienced the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, which is a complete infrastructure rebuild by Vectran and their contractors of the gas distribution lines. So folks that live in that affected area will get additional notification from Vectran, and then our engineering technician and foreman, Tom Long, as he has the last 3 years, will be overseeing from the city standpoint the construction and answering questions and helping citizens as needed. And then my last comment is on recycling. The last 3 meetings, I think, we've had folks here talk about sustainability and recycling matters. And just a reminder that, you know, we commingle our trash daily into one can, and, you know, glass, plastic cans, newspaper, paperboard, all that can go into that one container. And we encourage folks to recycle as much as possible. We don't receive money for the recyclables in that commingled state, but we pay a lot less to get rid of it than we do for the regular landfill trash. It's $20 a ton for the commingled recyclables, $38 a ton for regular trash. So for every ton of material that we can put in the recycle can, you know, we're saving $18, and that adds up. When you think about it community-wide. We also, and this is in our newsletter pretty much every 2 months, our city newsletter, have the Krieger Field by the dog park there, a parking lot with dumpsters where citizens can offload yard debris, cardboard, and the commingled material. So we encourage folks to use that as much as possible. And also on the first Saturday of every month, we have the Public Works Yard open from 8 to noon, and that's been very popular. We have containers set out there, and a lot of folks come there and do some self-dumping, oftentimes of things that otherwise would be picked up via a special pickup. It just saves us money to have people bring it there themselves. So that's all I have for Public
All right.
Works.
Any questions for our city manager? I would like to ask for you to relay council's appreciation to Tom Long for all the efforts he's done on these veteran projects and dealing with neighbors that have had issues with veteran or just issues and understanding what's going on. And it seems like he's everywhere. And he's very personable, and he keeps I think, a good relationship with the citizens that helps. And I know he helps you very much. So
Absolutely.
give him our regards for that. I've received more than one letter officially from citizens thanking him specifically for his efforts.
I will definitely do that, and I couldn't agree more. In fact, last week with the problems we had on Walnut Springs, Tom was out there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, way past nightfall, you know, working the problem and helping citizens as needed. So thank you.
Okay. So are you now ready for your city manager's report?
I am, Your Honor, and I have nothing.
Oh, well. All right. Then I think we'll go to council comments. Mrs. Hilton.
First of all, I'd like to commend Mr. Klopsch for, I mean, just the communication has been terrific, whether it's Public Works or anything else. I mean, I live on the corner where stuff happens with Hawthorne Hill or anything, but just the postcards you send out, people really appreciate it. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Byington.
No comments.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Did I sound dumb? Another thing, this is not so much Oakwood, but we are part of it, Dayton history. I had the opportunity to go once again down to Caroline Park, which changes every time I go there. But one of the displays, and this, I believe this has been there for at least 2 or 3 years, the 1913 flood, and I was with some teenagers, and I don't think they realized that part of how Oakwood came to be is because people wanted to live up on the hill. I don't want to have my house floating in the thing anymore. So that was wonderful. And another thing is the World War I display is relatively new, and I hate to brag, but my grandfather, Dad gave my grandfather's medals and stuff. So there's for every dad who gave their family stuff, there's like a little feature. So Clifford E. Shank,
wow.
his dad's dad.
Wow.
But it's really cool. And then they play. You go into the room, they play World War I songs over here. So anyway, I recommend it to everybody, and it's part of us. It's Dayton history.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And I am now done.
You are now finished. Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Vice Mayor Byington.
I have no comments this evening.
All right, thank you. I just have a couple. Next month, on Tuesday, May 2nd, is Election Day, and one of the items on the Oakwood ballot is a renewal levy for Wright Library. It's a 1.5 mil renewal. It is no new taxes. That supports the operations of our fine library. while it is not council's, historically, council doesn't approve things or endorse things, but I will personally endorse the Wright Memorial Library and encourage everyone to go out and vote for that library. And I also believe that the school board has a renewal levy on that same ballot. So I would also encourage people to support that renewal levy. Both of those levies are no new taxes for Oakwood citizens. And then secondly, the city is updating our website, and we're putting information on all of the Far Hills Business District, the Park Avenue Business District, and we have a listing of all the different shops in Park Avenue, and so as well as Far Hills, and we're going to try to maintain that and give people an understanding of all the neat, unique shopping opportunities there are in Oakwood. And I did, since our last meeting, was able to have a phone discussion with Richard Grader of Grader's Ice Cream, and he indicated that they do plan on staying in Oakwood for the foreseeable future. He did tell me that the sales to the Oakwood store are not as high as the Beaver Creek and Centerville stores, and I told him that I would encourage all Oakwood residents to eat as much ice cream at Grader's as possible, and they make most of their money after 7 p.m. So you can go to the shops of Oakwood, and you can have a nice steak at the Oakwood Club, and then go down the street to Grader's and have a nice hot fudge sundae, because that's what I do, and I look that way. And then finally, in this month's magazine called Oakwood Life, and it doesn't come to just everybody, but I think it's free, but there's an article in here about saying hello to your Oakwood neighbors, Beth and Steve Byington. It is written by Steve Byington. It's the most incredible history of Steve and his wife I have ever read until I got to the very end, and I would, with council's permission, like to incorporate this entire article in our minutes, because I think it's important to the history of all of the people in the city of Oakwood that they know who our vice mayor is and his unique background. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All right, well then we will incorporate that by
filibuster?
reference. Yes. It's an amazing story. It is must read. Okay. I think then the only other thing that I have is to tell you that this meeting is adjourned, and our next one will be on Monday, May 1st, 2017.